Everyone, I'd like to call this meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. If you would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our invocation. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Riska. Can we please have the roll call tonight?
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Mrs. Sarowski?
Here.
Mrs. Koski?
Present.
Mr. Radke?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Present.
Mr. Yanes?
Here.
Mrs. Yarko?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Riska. Mrs. Zarko is not with us here tonight. She is on a pre-planned family vacation, and we always try to plan our vacations on weeks that we don't have a city council meeting. She had a cruise scheduled in 2020 that kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, and this was the only date available. So she sends her regrets, but not that many regrets, because she is somewhere warm while we are here in the cold and snow and gray. So we wish Mrs. Zarko well on her very well-deserved vacation, and hope she's watching us from somewhere out in the middle of the ocean.
I'm sure she is.
I'm not sure she is, but I'm sure she'll catch up at some point. Council, can we please have approval of the agenda tonight?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the agenda with the deletion of item 6A.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
thank you. I know that we're going to delete 6A because the application was withdrawn. I just briefly wanted to tell the petitioner that I am frankly frustrated with this song and dance they keep on pulling with the city council. If they, put forward a plan, let's have a vote, let's have discussion. Twice now it's been on the agenda, and twice now we haven't had discussion on it. And through the chair to the city attorney, Mr. Koszubski, if they come back, do they have to come back with a whole new plan now, since they've pulled it twice?
Mr. Koszubski.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Radke, the rules are that they would have to come back with a substantially different plan. A substantially different would not be come back with something with a parking space or two change. It would have to be a major change in what they are proposing. So a similar project would not come back for a year.
Okay.
They can bring back an application in a year, but with the current project, but anything they'd have to do now would have to be substantially changed.
Okay, all I have is that I want to have a debate. If we're going to have it on the agenda, let's have a debate eventually. It's going to get pulled today, it's fine, but I'm frustrated. I feel like they're pushing and pulling us. I'd rather just finally have a say on it. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Radke. Anyone else? Yeah, so I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for the petitioner on this matter, but they did reach out to me, and they've tried to have conversations with the community, with the neighbors that would be directly impacted by this. They were in front of the Planning Commission. They've spoken with me. I've spoken with every member of council. They've, I understand, reached out to members of council. And they do not believe that there is support from the community to go forward with this project. So rather than come here and waste anybody's time, they wanted to just withdraw. So that's where it's at, and that's why it's not on the agenda tonight. So without any further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is a report from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to remind everyone that in observance of Thanksgiving, city offices will be closed for business on Thursday, November 24th, and Friday, November 25th. The city's refuse collection will be delayed one day that week. So Thursday's collection will be on Friday and Friday's on Saturday. And also, I wanted to remind everyone that the yard waste collection program will be ending the week of December 5th through December 9th. So it looks like the vast majority of leaves are down now, I would say around 90% or so, and it looks like a lot of properties have been cleaned up, and that's great. We appreciate everyone doing that. You can compost your leaves in an improved manner. You can go on our website to learn more about those guidelines, or you can mulch your leaves. But if you don't do either of those, you do have to get your leaves collected from your yard. Otherwise, that would be a code violation, and our code officers do inspect for that and do issue violations. So please be aware of that. But you have a couple of weeks yet to finish it all up. And again, we do appreciate everyone's hard work at getting leaves collected in the proper manner. And it's hard to believe, but the 45th annual Sterling Christmas is Saturday, December 3rd. So that will be from 5:45 p.m. to 8:30 at Dodge Park. Many of you have attended. It's always a great event. And once again, we'll have the tree lighting, holiday music, and caroling, visiting with Santa, horse-drawn wagon rides, ice skating, the trackless train ride, and so much more. Please be reminded you can bring an ornament for the tree at the Upton House. And also, if you're so inclined to help those in need, you can bring canned and boxed food items, which will be collected as well. So again, that's Saturday, December 3rd, and please see our website for more information on Sterling Christmas. And continuing with high popular demand is our Passport Walk-In Week, which will be December 5th through the 10th. If you'd like to participate in this, please see our website for more information. This has been an incredibly popular program. I want to thank our city clerk and her team for coordinating it. It's been very well received. So again, please see our website for more information. I'm super excited to announce tonight that the city's been selected to receive an award of $1.8 million for a proposed 10-foot wide pathway along the south side of Dobry. This will go from DeQuinder all the way over to Utica Road and then connect with Heritage Park. Overall, the project is $2.4 million. It will not only provide multimodal transportation to the area, but will also enhance the area with landscaping. And I'm really interested in this, eliminating the very unsightly chain link fence that's along M59 that's really been an eyesore for many years. So that fence will be replaced with more decorative fencing, and you can look forward to those improvements in the next couple of years. But this is pursuant to our Parks and Recreation Master Plan and also our non-motorized transportation plan. It will connect a number of communities, including Rochester Hills, the city of Troy, city of Utica, of course, Sterling Heights, and not to mention numerous pathways, the Iron Bell Trail System, our Dodge Park Trail System, Freedom Trail, Orchard Trail, and so on. So again, wanted to thank SEMCOG for working with the city and granting us the award, and also for our consultant HRC, who worked very hard on this application over the past couple of years, along with our engineering staff. So look forward to that improvement forthcoming over the next couple of years. And I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the screen before you. I'm hoping that Dan or Bob pull this up, knowing that we're recognizing them. Okay, great, you see it now. I'm very pleased to inform the community that the Sterling Heights TV Broadcast Services Coordinator, Dan Rizek, pictured on your right, and Bob Surgat on the left, were recently awarded 3 Philo Farnsworth Awards for Excellence in Community Programming. The awards are named after Philo Farnsworth, the father of modern TV, who invented the first receiving tube for television transmission. So the awards were in the following 3 categories. Documentary was the first one. The Sterling Heights Historical Commission Bus Tour. Bob Surgat, SHTV, and Cynthia Appleton of the Historical Commission put together this documentary. If many of you have probably seen it, if you haven't, you can go to our videos on demand and watch it. It's really good and a great educational documentary for Sterling Heights. And the second one in the promotional video category of 3 minutes or less, Recreating Recreation and Its Impact on Sterling Heights, produced by Dan Rizek, and also Melanie Davis, who's with us tonight, and the videography by Dan Rizek and Bob Surgott. So that received an award. And also Underserved Voices. This was a legally speaking series focusing on the LGBTQA community, and that included Bob Surgott's production and Beth Richardson of the Macomb County Bar Association. And finally, Dan Rizek was also a finalist in the promotional video category for his work on the Break Free Blast. We've got a lot to offer, and that was a series produced during COVID. And I think many of you would agree that the work they produce really is prime time. We're really lucky to have them and so appreciative of the entire team in community relations. And I wanted to highlight them this evening and recognize their good work. And Mayor, lastly, on my report, as you and the council know, we've been highlighting our boards and commissions all year long. It's been a real pleasure of mine to showcase their good work and recognize that your appointees, because the mayor and city council make the appointees to our boards and commissions, is really resulting in some incredible work. And this evening, we're going to hear from our African American Coalition, and our community relations director, once again, is going to introduce our special guests, and they're going to proudly highlight their good work.
Mr. Kajubski. My name is Melanie Davis. I'm the Community Relations Director for the City of Sterling Heights. And one of the committees that I work with in my department is the African American Coalition. They were formed just a couple of years ago, and in 2 short years, they have done some incredible work in terms of coming together, coalescing around different issues, and really building out the foundation for what their group is going to look like. They formed a steering committee, and they've developed a vision, a mission, goals, guiding principles, and they're going to share a little bit more about that with you tonight. I think the last time they spoke in front of this group was back in January at strategic planning, and they've been busy, very busy, doing a lot of different things, exciting things since then. So we have our vice chair, Ayana Yet, here tonight, and we also have our vice chair, Diana Bledsoe, with us in the audience. And I'd like to invite up to the podium to present to you tonight the chair, Ayana Yat, from the African American Coalition.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hello, Mayor Taylor and Mr. Vanderpool, and the members of City Council. I'll be presenting the wonderful work that we've been doing, as Melanie said, through the African American Coalition. So to start us off, I'll talk about our steering committee members, our goals, some of the wins that we've had over the last year that we've been together, and what's next for us. So firstly, the chair is me, and I'm joined with our vice chair, Diana Bledsoe, and our treasurer is Brenda Wilson, and our sergeant at arms is Eric Hawkins. And we have members at large, which is Sean Green Beebe and Miranda Young. So some of our goals include our mission statement and vision statement, which is to create Sterling Heights to be a community where African Americans belong. Our mission is unwavering advocacy for a culture of belonging and inclusion for African Americans in every facet of Sterling Heights. This includes advocacy with regard to any thing necessary or needed, just to be a place of network, a place to really bring everyone together and be a beacon of light for all. Our core values is that we pursue and uphold inclusion. Representation matters in every aspect. Budgets and policies must reflect equity across the city. Continuous cultural education and growth is imperative, and accountability is a pathway to commitment. And then our grounding principles, of course, is advocacy, inclusion, and belonging. So to highlight some of our wins that we've had over the past year, we were able to represent our coalition at the Macomb Black Excellence Awards this year in February. This was an amazing event that showcased a lot of the marvelous work that Black Macomb County residents are doing, and so it was really awesome to have our presence there as we represented Sterling Heights. We also represented the coalition at the Cultural Exchange event, which was a really cool opportunity, really show us in the community, highlight some of the things that we are doing, and to connect with others who also would like probably a place to be and connect with. We also marched in the Memorial Day Parade, which was really fun. Pictured is me and my partner. We had a lot of fun walking that nice little mile or more down Dodge Park, which was really cool. Oops. And so, yes, and to kind of end it all, we've passed some resolutions for Black History Month and Juneteenth, and pictured here is me and Mayor Taylor, and then to the right side is Diana and Mayor Taylor. And lastly, we hosted the city's first ever Juneteenth celebration, which is a historic contribution to the city and a historic contribution to Macomb County as a whole. And it's something that we really wear as a badge of honor as we continue to do great work in our city. Oh, and I totally forgot. We also hosted 2 blood drives with Versity, which is really awesome. Both of these blood drives were focused on issues with sickle cell and to increase donors for sickle cell needs in our community. And lastly, wow, I realized we did a lot of work, which is amazing. It's good. We held a voter education event for the community towards the middle of October, actually, where our city clerk, Ms. Riska, came and talked with us about how to vote, and we talked a little bit more about who was going to be on our ballot this year. That was really informative. A lot of hard work, but a lot of good results. And so now, finally, what's next for us? So we are gearing up now to highlight Black-owned businesses in Macomb County, but specifically in Sterling Heights through Black History Month, through the Sterling Heights Public Library. We are very excited about this as we've looked around the city and realized there are a lot more Black-owned businesses than we thought. So this is something that's really exciting that we're collecting to bring to our community for Black History Month. Next is the Tuskegee Flyover. Thank you to Mr. Vanderpool for organizing this initiative for us to have the Tuskegee Airmen featured in the Memorial Day Parade. Next is the Charles Russell dedication, which is really awesome to really highlight Sterling Heights' first ever Black voter, that's absolutely amazing that we have the opportunity to be a part of this. And then lastly, we're also focused on organizing our next Juneteenth event to make it bigger and better than the last. And so lastly, I end with any thoughts, questions, concerns, or anything on your heart.
Council, anyone have any?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Yanez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say how incredibly proud I am of this organization's group that came together I think just before COVID, right? And worked through COVID and a lot of different changes. And it's obviously that you've done a ton of work. We have a large African-American population here, and I know as an elected official, politician who's knocked on a lot of doors, I know that there has not always been a lot of feeling of community amongst Black homeowners, Black residents, and I hope that we're moving forward now and people feel like they're not only taxpayers in Sterling Heights, but part of the community, and you're doing great work to help people feel that way. And my other hope for you is that I hope you spread the seeds of this coalition to other communities around us, and so we can build a stronger community together. And I just want to thank you and every member of the coalition for the work you do.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Yanez. Appreciate it.
Mrs. Sarowski?
And I do want to echo what Councilman Yanez said. Very nice work, and you are helping us represent our community really well. You do a great job. Diana as well. You guys are just, I thank you, and I know we have the right people in place to carry the message and continue such good work, and excited to see how far this has gone and where it's going to go next. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Radke?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I love the work that you're doing. You're working so very hard. I know in the past, residents had approached us about maybe doing something for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. As one of the largest cities in the county, we often go elsewhere to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day. As a fellow junior, I always want to make sure we get that in there. But I don't know, you have a lot on your plate, so I don't want to add to it. But I know that some residents had expressed that, so I think in the future, if we could start maybe planning for an event in Sterling Heights to somehow commemorate that day, I think that'd be wonderful for your committee to take on.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
all I
Thank
have,
you
Mr.
for the
Mayor.
recommendation.
No, I'm giving her more work, I know, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Mike, did you just kind of like compare yourself to Martin Luther King Jr.?
I just respect people, I just respect people who you put the junior in their name, as I do. 'Cause it's so hard, everybody always cuts it off.
I cut it off.
Everybody
I don't
forgets
use,
it.
I don't use the junior. Counsel, anyone else? Look, I don't want to step on any of my colleagues' toes. I don't have a whole lot more original to add from what they did. But so I'll just say thank you. We appreciate it. I can say, you know, I haven't been a part of every meeting, but I've been a part of some of the meetings, and I know that anytime you have a fledgling group, you know, some new group, something different, something that's never been done before, it's hard to get it off the ground. And you guys have survived for a couple of years, gotten through. You know, the first was the in-person meeting, then the Zoom meetings, and you've got a clear direction now. You've got goals and a vision and a mission. And I can tell you that I know that every member on this city council and the city administration will support you and follow you wherever you take us. And we thank you for what you're doing for the African-American community and really for the entire community, okay? Because we need this. It helps us and it helps everyone of our 134,000 residents. So thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate you.
Anything else?
Mayor, just in conclusion, I also want to thank the group. I've enjoyed working with them. And I want to thank you and the city council for helping to create the coalition and being active supporters of the coalition. I know it means a lot to them. And I look forward to working with Ayanna and Diana and the rest of the coalition throughout the next year, especially the upcoming Memorial Day Parade. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Mayor, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, see you
Okay,
soon.
keep up the
Thank
good
you.
work. All right, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any item on tonight's consent agenda? Mr. Zanoy?
Joe Znoy, Sterling Heights resident. I was just wondering, Mr. Vanderpool or any other council members, if you could clarify the nature of the ballistic vests that the firefighters are requesting. Now, I know there are different levels of vest protection. I know that the police wear based on levels of the amount of firearm energy they're supposed to stop. And I can understand firefighters, you know, needing protection and not wanting to be impaled on stuff, sharp lumber as they fall through a roof or something. I'm thinking, you know, some polyethylene or polycarbonate riot armor might in fact be better suited for that kind of protection than actual ballistic vests, but, you know, it really doesn't describe what the firefighters are asking for, and I'm just wondering if anyone can clarify the nature of, you know, that request. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zanoy. Anybody else on the consent agenda? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski,
move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
support. It's been moved and supported. With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda tonight is to consider approval of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Sterling Heights and the Sterling Heights Police Officers Association, Michigan Association of Police. We have a presentation from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool, and if you could, when we get through the agenda, if you could respond to Mr. Zanoy during your reports, appreciate that.
Sure, Mayor, I'd be happy to. This is a fairly perfunctory memorandum of understanding with the Sterling Heights Police Officers Association, so I'll be brief in my comments. Simply put, the executive board approached our Human Resources Division and proposed a potential amendment to expand membership eligibility for overtime associated with special events. requiring uniform officers to be present. The special events include everything from school athletic events like football games, parades, farmer market, concerts in the park, election detail, and so on. And under the current collective bargaining agreement, only members assigned to the patrol and traffic bureaus are eligible for special event overtime. So this memorandum of understanding would expand eligibility to all officers in the department, not just those two bureaus. And the membership widely supports this. In fact, the union has approved it. And so before you this evening is a required memorandum of understanding that also requires the city council's approval. So with this very brief explanation in mind, I respectfully request that the mayor and city council approve the MOU. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Vanderpool, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Sarowski.
resolve to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Sterling Heights and the Sterling Heights Police Officers Association, Michigan Association of Police, and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign it on behalf of the city.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Sarowski?
No, not very much, just very briefly. I'm in full support of this. I understand that everyone should be approved for their overtime, and yes, we do need officers from all the branches or all the departments, so yes, I'm in full favor of this.
Okay, thank you. Council, anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes that portion of our agenda. We'll move on to communications from citizens. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on any item not on tonight's agenda? Mr. Nelson?
Ken Nelson, Fire Steel Drive, Sterling Heights. Not that I'm disappointed in the withdrawal, but I just thought it was rather crude, Mr. Radke, what you brought up about tired of dealing with this developer. And Mr. Taylor, the questions that I have are, you spoke with them. Is there any chance that they're going to look at that property and look at redoing their development and then coming back? So I'm asking for all the people that have been here, I don't know how many times, trying to protect their property, and it looks to me like the same thing's happening again. So I'm hoping that you can shed some light on it so that when people leave here tonight, they actually think or actually know that it's not going to be redeveloped by that particular plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nelson. Anyone else under communications from citizens? Mr. Zanoy?
Thank you again. Mr. Vanderpool, just about talking about the leaf collection stuff. I've always wondered, Sterling Heights is like the fourth largest city in the state. And I'm wondering why we don't have leaf collection ordinances or services like other smaller cities like Royal Oak or Dearborn, where residents are allowed to, blow their leaves into the street, and then there's a designated time when the city comes by, picks those up, and then, goes through the whole composting process at some remote site. And I would hope or think that, being as large a city as we are, that we might be able to divert some other funds to this service. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zanoy. Anyone else under communications from citizens? Sir.
Sanford Williams. I was just checking to see if you guys had any estimate date of when you may go over the 2022 task force report, and if you guys got a date that you may consider voting on that. Thank you.
We will update tonight. Mr. Vanderpool, add it to the list. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Williams. Anyone else under communications? Yes, sir.
Paul Michael, Wilson Court. I'd like more discussion regarding this PUD ordinance and all this stuff regarding PUD ordinances. We've been, not only for our particular matter, but for the, what the developments are occurring under it. Because it seems like the council and the planning commission have, at least some people believe they can do whatever they want. And if that's true, why don't they just say under the ordinance that the city council can do whatever they want, and all the narrative written in there don't even matter? Why do we have to bother even reading that stuff? The mayor's even gone off saying that he don't care what any ordinances or anything, because they were written 40, 50 years ago, and he don't care what they say. They're not applicable, as far as he's concerned, in these days. And so we need more discussions regarding specifically ordinances, I mean PUD ordinances, but all of them, because if they don't matter, or if you want to select the ones you want, then why should anybody? Because stuff filters right on down to everybody, and if you don't have to listen to ordinances, why should we? And then I'd like to point out something Mrs. Schmidt brought up in the Lakeside Circle meeting, and she asked a specific question regarding office space being used for building offices. And the fellow from that organization says, well, they for sure know that they can build office, have buildings for office space. And she went on to say that, well, we are under the presumption that there wasn't any requirement or anybody wanted to do that. And he pointed out very clearly that in their study that there is a need for it. And so I think things like that got to be kept in mind. You can't dismiss them. And we've always had a presence to say that, and when we come up here and talk to you all about that stuff. And then I think finally what I'd like to say, I really think the mayor ought to apologize to Mr. Yanis and probably Ms. Koski when you go off on one of your tantrums, really, just because they don't vote the way you want. The latest one was regarding the Lakeside Circle, the way he voted, just because he's got a right to vote any way he wants and for whatever reason, just like everybody else. And that's not the first time. There's been several times. You went off on the whole city council, I think it was last summer, because of something the developer wanted to go down there on Van Dyke and 14 Mile Road or somewhere down there, and they all voted against it, and you went off on them. And then again, you went off on Mr. Nelson because you don't like some of the things he says. Well, he gets up here, he comes out here, regardless if he wants to run for mayor or ran for mayor, it don't matter. You know, he's got every right to speak whatever he wants to say up here, you know, as long as he's polite and presents his message. Why should you go off on him and say, you're the mayor and you got elected and all that stuff and that kind of thing? I mean, how's that, you know, he says a lot of things that I'm kind of interested in, and maybe he brings up matters that, at least from the perspective of the people, other citizens of the city. And maybe we're interested in those things just because you're not, and you're more pro-development. That don't mean that he can't get up here and say what he wants or anybody else. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else under communications? If not, I'll close that portion, and we'll go on to reports from city administration. Mr. Vanderpool, anything tonight?
Mayor, I'll follow up on a couple of questions. Mr. Zenoy mentioned, well, first he had a question about. Zenoy, I'm sorry. Mr. Zenoy mentioned our question about the ballistic vests that are being purchased in the fire department. So the goal is, after this purchase, we'll have 21, and the idea is to have 2 on every ambulance, 2 on every engine, and 1 for the battalion chief vehicle. So not every firefighter is assigned a vest. They are similar to the police department vests. They are to protect firefighters in the same way. They often have to go into situations that put their lives in harm's way. It could be an active shooter or any number of situations requiring the vest. So this is now a best practice. We've been phasing these in over the last couple of years, and this should complete the purchase now. There was also a question about why the city doesn't allow leaves to be blown into the street. There are some communities that allow that. It's a very expensive proposition, requires very specialized equipment and increased labor and so on and so forth. And I would venture to guess, although I haven't conducted any sort of scientific survey, but I would imagine the refuse millage in communities that allow this is much higher than the refuse millage in Sterling Heights. So it's certainly something that can be done. It's simply a matter of costs. And we really haven't had many requests for such a service. I'm not sure there'd be support for an increased millage to provide the service. But we do offer, I should say, communicate and coordinate a number of on-demand services where residents can request leaf pickup now through Uber-like services. It's very affordable, and you don't have to enter into a contract. You can simply download the apps. Lawn Guru, for example, is one app. There's many of them, though, and you can request your yard cleanup, and they'll actually come out and pick up your leaves for a cost, of course. But for many, it's a very viable option. For those who can't afford that sort of service, we also have our Shine program and Volunteer Corps that will go out and help residents who may have a mobility limitation or some sort of financial hardship. And the Volunteer Corps will help clean up yards, rake leaves, and mow grass, and so on. And it's been very effective. We've helped hundreds of homeowners who just haven't been able to get to it. So those are viable alternatives. And the Marijuana Task Force report is now published online, so you can go to our website and review the report. And we'll be presenting that publicly in the very near future. So the report is complete, however. Lastly, just a comment on PUD ordinances, or PUD stands for Planned Unit Development Ordinances. This is a concept that's used widely across the United States and communities, including in the state of Michigan. And it proves to be beneficial, not in all cases, but in many cases, for communities that are fully developed, and there are remaining parcels of property that are rather unique and do not lend themselves to development through the more traditional zoning classifications. The vast majority of the city's properties have been developed through the very traditional zoning provisions, residential zoning, so R80 and the like, and commercial zoning and manufacturing and industrial zoning classifications. But in these unique cases, planned unit development ordinances allow flexibility that normally is not allowed in those situations. And so it is used widely. We've used it in Sterling Heights over the last 10, 15 years, and it's proven to be very beneficial. Again, not in all cases, and I'm not saying it would or would not have been beneficial in this case, but it certainly is an option. It's important to note that the same public process is required. Public hearings are required for any, just like there would be for a rezoning of any sort. So the community is able to weigh in at the planning commission level and ultimately the city council level. So just a comment on the planned unit development practice that is used widely in communities across the country. And Mayor, I think that is it for this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. Mr. Koszybski?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay, council, I'll open it up for reports or new business. Mrs. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Just a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to respond to Mr. Zanoy about the leaves, and you brought up Royal Oak. I happen to have grown up in Royal Oak. My mom still lives in Royal Oak, and I will tell you, it's a disaster that when they blow all the leaves at the curbs, there's no parking in the streets, and if you do, you're taking the chance of your car catching on fire because of a hot exhaust system being exposed to those dry leaves. And one good, they tell you what day they're going to come and do, come and collect your leaves. However, if there is a windstorm, all those leaves are all over the neighborhood anyway. So I think I would not be in favor of it. It's a great idea, it's a great concept, and I will tell you, she pays significantly more in her taxes than we do here in Sterling Heights as well. So that's just my 2 cents about the leaves. It's a safety thing, and it eliminates any on-street parking when those leaves are there. And lastly, I just wanted to bring up, it's that time of year for the DPW Ken Stempowski Food Drive. For over 44 years, they've been doing this. They collect canned goods and dry goods at the DPW from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. or community relations from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday through December 14th. And checks are also welcome, made out to the Macomb Food Program. So that all stays in Macomb County, and it helps our neighbors. And I encourage everyone to do, if they're able to, contribute to their food drive. And that, I have nothing further. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Mrs. Sarowski?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So we're now 1 week past the elections, and I want to congratulate all of the winners, everyone who won their election. And to those that did not, thank you for still participating in the democratic process. It was a very interesting process, and I'm very, very grateful that you all did participate, and even more grateful that the ads are done on the television. It was brutal this year. I also want to thank everyone who has started to decorate early for Christmas, so that I can get started now and not look like my family will not be after me, because they always think I decorate way too early, but I'm ready to go. Congratulations also to Bob Surgott and Dan. I want to give them my personal congratulations. They are 2 very, very professional young men, and they do a wonderful job, and I am very grateful for their work that they do for the city, and I wanted to congratulate them personally. And then finally, I want to wish everyone, because we will not be together prior to this, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully everyone enjoys their family and has a great time. My Marine is coming in next week, so I'm excited to see them. We haven't seen them in a very long time. Well, feels that way. It's been 6 months. And I wish everyone a very happy holiday. So thank you all, and have a good time. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Sarowski. Mr. Radke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, I also want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And today is opening day of the hunting season. Normally, I'd be up there in a stand. I couldn't go this year, but I wish everyone luck if they're chasing their whitetail. It's always kind of a little holiday here in Michigan, especially Macomb County. Briefly, today I want to talk about, we recently had a pedestrian fatality on Mound Road at 18.5 Mile Road. And I find it very frustrating, because when we approved the expansion of Mound, they removed the sidewalk that was supposed to be built on the east side of Mound all the way up through 18.5 Mile Road. Well, this pedestrian seems to be intoxicated. There was some issues there, but if he had sidewalk to walk on, maybe he would not have been struck and killed by a car. And I find it to be just so distressing that the county came before us, was it a year ago, and said that no one walks there. Well, we have a gentleman who was just killed by a car there, so they're full of it. So I would, without objection, ask the city manager to send a letter to Mark Hackle, the road commission, and our 2 county commissioners, Van Sickle and Romano, asking them to please find the funding in the ARPA money. They've been bragging about the millions and millions of dollars of ARPA money that they have at the county to give us the sidewalk that they promised us. Because it shouldn't take someone being killed by a car for us to realize that not having sidewalk on both sides of the street is an absolute mistake. And every pedestrian death in Sterling Heights severely frustrates me. And this one is especially frustrating because we all acknowledge that it was a problem. So without objection, Mr. Mayor, I'd like us to send a letter over there and ask them, give us our sidewalk.
Okay, anybody object to sending a letter to the county requesting additional funding for sidewalks?
Mentioning the death, too.
And mentioning the death. Hearing none. Mr. Vanderpool, any thoughts on that?
Mayor, if I could just add to it, I think an important component of the letter would be requesting a solution to sidewalk crossings across Mound and 18.5 Mile in that area. Mm-hmm. We were just talking to a county commissioner before we started the meeting earlier, requesting their help in figuring that out. Mound is a county road, so the original Innovate Mound project had two skywalks over Mound Road, one in Sterling Heights and one down by the Warren GM Tech Center. So we really need to solve that problem in addition to getting the sidewalk completed on the east side ASAP. Thank you.
The one thing I would say to that, Mr. Mayor, is I'm not sure a skywalk, which often entails quite a sum of money, and in Clinton Township, when one of them was struck, it cost over $1 million to remove, that might be the best option. The best option is painting stripes on the ground, stopping traffic and letting people cross. The idea that this is impossible, I mean, we've created roads for a millennia now. It ain't hard to stop and go across a roadway, whether it be wagons or cars. It's just political intransience that's preventing us from crossing the road. And we shouldn't stand for it anymore. With that, I want to thank the gentleman who runs Sterling Heights TV. They have well-deserved awards. We deal with them all the time, and they are the utmost of class and professionalism. You know, Dan and Bob, they are just tremendous. And I guess I'll wish congratulations to the winners of last week's elections, and keep trying for the losers. It's never easy to stand before the voters. It really is the ultimate test, and I want to respect everyone who is willing to put their name on the ballot. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Radke.
Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Konski.
Thank you. I also would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And again, a reminder, December 3rd for our Sterling Christmas. And don't forget that you can bring a Christmas tree ornament that we can hang on the tree in the Upton House. And I'd also like to ask if our city attorney can maybe work with administration and put together some kind of guideline that we can follow in regard to the PUD developments. It was mentioned tonight that there's a question, what exactly can be done with the PUD? And I know we have done them in the past, but it's usually been residential construction, from what I recall. Now it seems like we're getting into this mixed-use developments where the PUD development is brought in to handle that development. I would like some guidelines, not something that's cut in stone. I'm talking about guidelines to know, are we going to be looking at setbacks, easements, side, front setbacks, height of buildings, some guidelines that maybe would help council when we look at any PUD development, which would help any developer that would like to come in and do a mixed-use development. I would just like some guidelines of some sort, if that's possible. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Koski. Mr. Yanas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too would like to congratulate Dan and Bob on their Philo Awards. You know, I think we have such high-quality work done here in the city. I think sometimes we take it for granted, and this award just makes us realize the high-quality work not only do they do, but our community relations department as a whole does a fantastic job. And, you know, like a good hockey referee, if you don't notice them, they're doing the right thing, and sometimes we don't notice them. So I'm glad that they were given these awards and the recognition. I'd also like to mention that we did have the election, but I would like to congratulate once again our clerk and her awesome staff for the hard work they did, as well as all the election workers. I know they're paid. Are there any volunteers, or are they all paid? They all get through the chair.
Mrs. Riska.
Yeah, everybody is paid with the exception of a couple of handful of interns who are 16 or 17-year-olds that are doing it for school.
They're not making a ton of money, but they take that job super seriously. I like to go to the election center after the polls close and watch that busy beehive work, and everybody's got their head down. They're doing a great job and making sure that that democracy happens. So thank you again to the clerk and her awesome staff. You just have to step outside to realize the weather's cold, and it's going to get colder, and we got a little bit of snow today, and more snow is coming. Once again, I'm going to ask, please keep an eye out for your neighbors, please, especially our seniors and those with disabilities. You know, God, I hate to sound like an old fogey, but, you know, there was a time when, you know, kids used to walk through the neighborhood with the snow shovel or the rake and, you know, for a few bucks, clean up. And you don't really see a whole lot of that anymore. And I see a lot of senior citizens out there, you know, doing the heavy work, cleaning up the leaves or shoveling the snow or whatever. So, you know, whether you know your neighbors or not, just keep an eye out, please. And your neighbors will thank you, and I know I will thank you. And then last but not least, I'd also like to thank everybody, or say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I know the holiday is right around the corner, and it'll be a happy Thanksgiving for me when the Lions are 5-6 after Thanksgiving Day. And if they're not 5-6, well, they're playing the Bills on Thanksgiving, so I'll call that a Detroit Super Bowl, and they win. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Henry, I was just about to apologize to you, and then you brought up the Lions and you made me angry again. So,
Feel free to yell at me
listen,
again.
listen, you know, they always disappoint, right? We can't get a good draft pick anymore because they're winning games, but they're winning games, which is nice. So,
Mr. Mayor, if you can tell your kids Santa is real, you can tell them the Lions' chances to go to the Super Bowl are real, okay? Please. Thank you.
Santa is real.
Teddy, if you're watching out there, I don't know what
Santa
he's
is
talking
real.
about.
Yes.
In Israel.
Teddy does watch the meetings. I'm sure he's on my wife's lap watching right now. So,
The Lions are real.
the Lions
are real.
The Lions are the real deal.
Lions are real.
All right, I don't know what went wrong here, but look, I just want to say thank you all for participating tonight. My colleagues on council have pretty much hit everything I wanted to talk about, so I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I hope to see you at Sterling Christmas, and we'll see you back here in 3 weeks. So council, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. It's been moved and supported. No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.